Romania, a land cloaked in mist and mystery, where ancient castles cling to craggy hillsides and time itself seems to slumber beneath the dense Carpathian pines. Before we begin, my dear dreamers, if you enjoy these sleep journeys, I would be honored if you tap that subscribe button and join me on many more quiet adventures across the world. Every subscriber helps this humble little channel grow and brings these sleepy stories to dreamers like you. Now then, why Romania? Why choose this particular corner of Europe for tonight's gentle voyage into slumber? Well, truth be told, this country has long held me under its spell. It was some years ago, during a solitary autumn expedition through Eastern Europe, that I found myself wandering the candle-lit streets of Sibiu, a town so enchanting I quite forgot to take notes. The rooftops seemed to watch me, the fog whispered secrets, and every footstep echoed with a story. I was meant to pass through in a single night. I stayed for weeks. There is something otherworldly about Romania. Perhaps it's the shadows that stretch long over Transylvania's hills, or the wind that seems to carry the breath of ancient myths. Or maybe it's the way the past lingers, not hidden but standing proud and tall in stone fortresses and forgotten villages. Romania is a land of dualities, dark yet dazzling, chilling yet comforting, mysterious, yet deeply, achingly beautiful. It remains one of the most understated treasures of Europe, a country often whispered about but rarely truly understood. And tonight, as we drift together into sleep, we shall uncover its wonders not with haste, but with hushed awe. So rest now, dear listener. Lay your head gently on your pillow and close your eyes. For our journey begins in the very heart of legend, in Transylvania, where shadows dance across the turrets of Dracula's castle, and the night air hums with centuries of secrets. Let me guide you through Romania, not as a scholar, but as one utterly charmed. Tonight we walk slowly, softly, through stories carved into stone and dreams stitched into the forest mist. Welcome to the sleep journey through enchanted Romania. Ah, Transylvania. The very name carries with it the hush of legend, doesn't it? A land of fog-draped hills and crumbling fortresses where the silence is broken only by the creak of forest trees or the call of a distant night bird. The region sits nestled within the great arc of the Carpathian Mountains, as if gently held in the hand of time, where stories have lingered longer than most civilizations. The screen shall now fade to dark, so just follow my voice. Let the flicker of outside light disappear, and allow your breath to soften. You are safe here, cradled in sound and story. Let us begin our journey. We arrive by train, naturally, the way I first came, as the tracks wind gracefully through pine-covered mountains and sleepy valleys. The rhythm of the wheels against the rail becomes a lullaby of its own, soft and persistent, as if beckoning you inward. Through the misted window, glimpses of scattered stone villages emerge, roofs sloping like the backs of resting animals, smoke curling gently from chimneys. Transylvania, for all its ominous lore, is a place of warmth. Yes, there are castles, many. Yes, there are stories of a certain fanged count. But beyond the myths lies something far more enchanting. A stillness, a kind of slumbering magic that invites you to slow down, breathe deep, and simply be. We begin in the heart of Brasov, a medieval town surrounded by mountains like sentinels. Its cobbled streets curve gently beneath your feet, and the black church rises solemnly against the dusk. Its stone walls scorched by centuries, yet standing firm. The air here smells faintly of chimney smoke and fir needles. Walk slowly with me. Each step echoes gently, reverently. The soft glow of lanterns hangs above us, swaying slightly, casting golden shadows on walls carved by time. I remember staying in a little guest house here, tucked behind a courtyard overgrown with ivy. The kind of place where you're awakened not by noise but by morning fog tapping lightly at the window. From Brasov we make our way northward, through undulating hills and forgotten villages, toward the most storied fortress of them all, Bran Castle. It stands dramatically atop a rocky cliff, its towers rising sharply against the sky, a Gothic silhouette that could have stepped straight from a painting or a dream. Bram Stoker, the Irish novelist, never visited Romania himself, yet he was so beguiled by descriptions of the castle that he chose it as the imagined home of his now immortal Count Dracula. And of course there is some truth behind the tale. Bran Castle is frequently associated with Vlad III, known to history as Vlad the Impaler, a ruler of Wallachia in the 15th century, known for his brutal methods and his fierce defense of his land. Though Vlad likely never lived in Bran Castle itself, the legend has linked them forever, merging fact and fiction in a way that only Transylvania seems capable of. But we won't dwell on blood tonight, dear dreamer. No, this journey is not one of fear, but of fascination. Imagine instead standing in the castle's inner courtyard. A cool breeze slips between stone arches and the walls rise like watchful guardians. You place your hand on the old wood of the stair rail, polished smooth by centuries of visitors, pilgrims, storytellers. Inside, candlelight flickers on arched ceilings. The rooms are filled not with horror, but with quiet history tapestries, old chests, iron chandeliers gently swaying, and then a window, small and square. You lean toward it and look out. There, the Carpathians rolling in waves of silver and green. Evening approaches, mist curls along the treetops, and a single hawk glides lazily across the sky. You feel not fear, but awe, not chill, but wonder. Now let us descend not just from the castle's heights, but into the quieter side of Transylvania, into the smaller villages, tucked between forests, where time has chosen not to race ahead, but to rest a while. There's Sighisoara, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and perhaps one of the best preserved medieval citadels in Europe. It is said that Vlad the Impaler was born here, in a pastel-colored house that still stands today. But beyond its connection to history, the town itself feels like something from a child's fairy tale. Clock towers chime gently in the square. Houses are painted in sleepy yellows, muted pinks, and aged greens. Cobblestones glisten slightly from a fresh rain, and cats peer at you from narrow windowsills. I once spent a dusk in Sighisoara walking its upper fortress walkways. The sun melted over the horizon, and I could hear the faint hum of a violin from a courtyard below. Not performance, just practice. And yet it moved me more than any symphony hall ever could. There's a softness to this place, a humility, as if Transylvania doesn't wish to dazzle you, not at first, but instead whispers its secrets slowly, patiently, until you're completely, utterly enchanted. As we continue our sleep-bound passage, the Carpathians stretch before us like a velvet ribbon thick with ancient firs, moss-covered stone, and hidden pathways. The forests here feel sacred, not for any temple, but because of their quiet. Close your eyes now, and imagine walking beneath their boughs, the crunch of twigs underfoot, the hush of wind brushing treetops. Perhaps, just perhaps, you hear a wolf in the far distance, not threatening, but simply calling. A reminder that the wild still lives here. These woods have watched generations pass shepherds, monks, queens, revolutionaries, and travelers like us. And now, the village of Viskri, one of my favorites, a place so still, so untouched that the horses often outnumber the cars. The houses here are painted in faded blues and dusty pinks, their wooden gates carved by hand. Prince Charles of Britain even fell in love with this village, restoring a house here to preserve its beauty. You'll notice the people speak slowly in Viskri, not out of tiredness but out of contentment. They rise with the sun, tend their sheep, bake their bread, and nod hello as you pass. The kind of place where time no longer matters. And isn't that, in a way, what we're after here? To let go of the ticking clocks, to slip out of expectation and into ease, to float gently without destination, guided only by wonder. So here we are, dreamer, deep in Transylvania, a region wrapped in story, stitched together with myth, stone, and silence. If you listen closely, you might hear the rustle of bat wings above Bran Castle, or the laughter of children skipping down Brashov's old market square, or the quiet crackle of a fire in a mountainside inn where an old man tells stories in a language you don't speak and yet somehow understand. Because this is Romania, a place that doesn't shout but beckons, that doesn't reveal itself at once but slowly, softly, like the falling of snow or the fading of night. So rest now, traveler. Let Transylvania linger in your mind, its hills and castles and whispers. Let the darkness wrap around you not as fear, but as comfort, the kind of velvet night that has kept stories safe for centuries. And as we continue our journey through this beautiful land, allow yourself to drift deeper and deeper into sleep. There is a rhythm to the Carpathian countryside, one that does not keep time with clocks or calendars, but with the rising of the sun, the rustling of wind through fields, and the low murmur of sheep bells drifting across open hills. If Transylvania was a chapter of legend and stone, then the Carpathian countryside is a soft lullaby sung by the earth itself. Tonight, we leave the castles and citadels behind. We step away from myth and memory and move into the real, breathing heart of Romania. A place untouched by haste. A place that feels as though the modern world simply passed it by. Let us begin at first light. Imagine waking in a wooden cottage at the edge of a forest, the scent of pine and firewood still clinging to the morning air. You open the shutters and outside the valley glows with dew. Horses graze freely in distant pastures. A rooster calls once, faintly, as if not to disturb the calm. There is no traffic here, no electric hum, only the whisper of a brook nearby and the slow awakening of the hills. We walk now, slowly, along a dirt path that meanders through the countryside. It is lined with wild flowers in shades of pale lavender, soft yellow, and white. You might spot a haystack, not in a field, but built upright like a sculpture, carefully tied and drying beneath the sun. These haystacks are everywhere in the Carpathians, each one built by hand, layered with intention. They remind me of the people here, practical, steady, and quietly poetic. As we walk, the world opens up into rolling hills, carpeted with green meadows and dotted with old wooden fences that lean slightly with age. We pass a shepherd leading a small flock across the land, a slow procession of wool and soft bleating. He nods to us, says nothing, and continues along. The sheep graze peacefully, their bells chiming gently like wind chimes in the distance. You may notice that the path is not lined with signs. There are no loud markers telling you where to go. Here, the land itself is the guide. And then, a village. Small, quiet, yet brimming with life beneath the surface. The homes are modest, painted in muted tones with hand-carved wooden gates. Windowsills are decorated with lace curtains and clay pots of basil and rosemary. Children ride old bicycles down gravel roads. An elderly woman sweeps her porch with care, even though there's little dust to remove. In these places like Botiza or Chernia, time isn't something one fights against. It's something to live alongside. The villagers rise with the sun, work with their hands, and rest when the stars appear. And when guests arrive, even ones who barely speak the language, there is warmth. A chair offered, a plum brandy poured, bread and cheese brought to the table not as a gesture but as instinct. I recall once being invited into a home in a village near Moieciu. I had stopped to admire the patterns on a wooden gate. A woman, likely in her 70s, appeared and beckoned me inside with a smile. No words exchanged, not at first, but there was a warmth in her eyes, and a pride in showing me the woven textiles hanging on her walls, the heirloom plates above her stove, the bread cooling beneath a linen cloth. It was hospitality not learned, but lived. Beyond the villages, the countryside rises again into gentle peaks and misty forests. These are the lower stretches of the Carpathians, lush, deeply wooded and alive with quiet motion. You might hear the soft crunch of hooves as a horse-drawn cart passes not for tourists but for life itself, carrying hay, timber, or even family members from one home to another. And then, around a bend in the path, a meadow appears, vast, silent, golden in the evening light. You lie down on the soft grass, and above you the sky stretches out in that endless way that only countryside skies can, deep blue melting into indigo with the faintest glimmer of stars just beginning to show. Listen now. There are no loud noises, only the song of crickets, the distant low of a cow, the hush of leaves brushing against one another in the twilight. This is the kind of place where stories are not written in books, but passed down by voice, whispered by firelight, remembered through lullabies and etched into the very land. And so, dear listener, as you lie quietly far from cities and headlines, you begin to understand. The Carpathian countryside does not beg to be noticed. It does not shout or sparkle. It simply is, and that is enough. It invites you to slow down, to breathe deeper, to listen more closely, to step into a world where meaning is found not in urgency, but in simplicity. Not in quantity, but in care. Perhaps tomorrow we shall help gather hay, or learn to bake with sour cherries from the tree, or listen to an old man tell a story so slowly it feels like time has stopped entirely. But for now, Simply rest. Let the soft hills cradle you. Let the stars blink slowly above you. Let the rhythm of rural life lull you deeper and deeper into sleep. For in this quiet corner of the world, peace is not sought, it is simply found. Ah, Bucharest. The very name conjures something curious, doesn't it? A capital city, yet not one that races ahead like the others. It is a city of contrasts, of echoes, of reinvention. And for those patient enough to walk its streets slowly, it reveals itself, not with grandeur, but with quiet intimacy. Let us enter, not as tourists, but as dreamers. We arrive as dusk begins to fall. The air is warm, humming gently with life, though not rushed. A golden light spills between the apartment blocks, washing the pavement in amber. The soundscape is soft, the flutter of pigeons lifting off, the distant ring of a bicycle bell, and somewhere, the faint pluck of a guitar from a balcony above. You might expect bustle in a capital city, but here, the bustle seems to pause at twilight. We begin our walk through Lipskani, the old town, a labyrinth of cobbled lanes, low balconies and archways carved by time. The buildings lean a little, like tired books on a shelf, their facades cracked gently by decades of sun and rain. Some are Art Nouveau, others pure mystery. Their shutters creak, their lanterns flicker. But listen closely. This part of Bucharest has been here a long, long time. Merchants once traveled these very stones with carts full of cloth and spices. Storytellers stood in corners spinning yarns beneath the gaslights. And now, in the hush of evening, the city seems to remember all of it. We pause in front of a tiny antique shop, its window brimming with porcelain dolls, dusty typewriters, and books whose pages are yellowed with memory. The door is locked. The owner has long since gone home, but the charm remains, spilling onto the street like perfume. Bucharest is not just a city of stone, it is a city of shadows and resilience. There is a quiet tension beneath the architecture, for this is a place that has survived earthquakes, wars, dictators, and revolutions, and yet here it stands graceful in its own weathered way. As we wander farther, we reach Calea Victoriae Victory Avenue, once one of the most elegant boulevards in Europe. And still, beneath the city lights and modern traffic, a kind of nostalgic beauty lingers. You may notice the Palace of the National Military Circle rising with faded grandeur, its dome catching the last of the sun. Farther down, the Romanian Athenaeum appears like a neoclassical dream, white columns glowing like candlelight. You step inside, just for a moment. The doors close behind you. The hush is absolute. Red velvet seats, golden leaf details, a painted ceiling of heavenly clouds and myths. Even without a performance, the silence sings. This is the side of Bucharest that few expect. A city with a cultured soul worn, yes, but still humming. As night settles, we make our way to Gradina Cishmighiu, the Cishmighiu Gardens. In the quiet of the evening, this place becomes something otherworldly. A green heart in the center of a sprawling city, winding pathways lined with chestnut trees, old iron benches, some empty, others occupied by soft silhouettes deep in conversation. You and I take a seat near the lake. The surface of the water reflects the lamps like stars. A swan glides silently across, its ripples echoing in slow, perfect waves. You can hear the trees gently swaying above, a sound softer than sleep itself. I've always said that one must find a city's stillness to truly know it. not its skyline, nor its monuments, but its stillness. And here, in this garden, beneath a canopy of leaves, Bucharest finally exhales. But of course, no journey to Bucharest would be complete without acknowledging the Palace of the Parliament, a structure so vast it seems almost impossible. We visit it now only from a distance, standing beneath its towering presence, its windows glinting in the moonlight. You may feel both awe and melancholy. Built during the Ceausescu era, it is the second largest administrative building in the world, vast, ornate, and heavy with history, a symbol of ambition and excess, of a regime's reach, and the scars it left behind. But tonight, we do not explore its halls. We simply stand outside, quietly, listening to the wind curl between its columns, watching the trees below sway like dancers. Even in its stillness, the palace is part of the story, and Bucharest carries it like a memory it cannot quite forget. Now let us slip away from the stone and into something sweeter. A cafe, old, tucked away, with a wrought iron balcony and candlelight flickering through lace curtains. You step inside, and time seems to rewind. A phonograph plays a distant tune, maybe a waltz. The smell of coffee, honey, and something floral lingers in the air. You sit beside a window. A porcelain teacup is placed before you, warm and delicate. Outside, the city hums on, but here it is still. It is in places like this where Bucharest truly opens its arms, not through spectacle but through simplicity. A warm drink, a soft chair, a reminder that even in the busiest of places, peace can be found. So rest now, dear traveler. Let the streets of Bucharest fade into quiet dream. Let the bells of old churches ring softly in your memory. Let the scent of linden trees and the whisper of fountains guide you deeper. For this city, with its scars and songs, its palaces and parks, is not a place of loud wonder, but of whispered beauty. A city that, once heard, cannot be forgotten. Bukovina, nestled in Romania's northern cradle, where gentle hills rise and fall like the breath of the earth in slumber. It is here, in this quiet corner of the world, that time slows, where the hush of pine trees carries stories older than any map, and the painted walls of ancient monasteries whisper of endurance and faith. As you settle in more deeply now, let your eyes rest and simply keep following my voice, for we are about to drift through a land that has known hardship, holiness, and healing all at once. I remember arriving in Bukovina in the early light of morning. The mist curled across the pastures like spilled milk, and the air was scented with wood smoke and the sweet grassy breath of dew-soaked hay. It was the sort of morning that felt stitched from the fabric of dreams, hushed, golden, and reverent. This region, little known to many, yet steeped in soul, has stood as a quiet witness to the sweep of centuries. Its soft hills were once scarred by war, by plague, by famine, yet through it all, the people endured. And not only endured, they created beauty. Take, for example, the painted monasteries. Oh, how they astonished me. Voronets, Moldovica, Sucevica, their names like whispered spells, each one a jewel of human devotion. These were not grandiose fortresses of faith. No, they were humble sanctuaries, with walls alive in vivid color. Imagine biblical tales, entire stories, unfurling across the outer. Facades painted in rich blues and golds, reds and greens, as if heaven itself had taken a brush to stone, not within but without, for all to see, because in the 15th and 16th centuries most people could not read, but they could look, they could feel, and feel they did. You see, Bukovina's painted churches were born from suffering. The monks and artists who created them lived through the Black Death, through invasions by the Ottomans, through a time of fear and darkness. Yet what did they do with that pain? They turned it into art, into color, into story. And still today, these frescoes shimmer beneath mountain light, retelling tales of resilience in tones untouched by time. As we wander quietly now, the road turns, and we find ourselves in a sleepy village where haystacks lean like old men in conversation, and hens cluck lazily near hand-carved fences. The roofs are steep, wooden, and shingled like fish scales, and the scent of burning plum wood curls from the chimneys. A woman in a woven headscarf waves from her porch. Children chase one another down a dirt lane. There's peace here, earned peace. Above us, the Carpathian foothills rise again, draped in pine and birch, silent guardians to the valley below. At dawn, mist wraps them like gauze. By noon, shafts of sunlight spill through the canopy like cathedral light. In the evenings, owls call from deep within their emerald shadows. And yet, for all its quiet splendor, Bukovina has known sorrow. Over the centuries, this land was tugged between empires. Moldavian princes once ruled here, followed by Habsburgs, Ottomans, and Soviets. Each left behind echoes in language, in food, in the rhythm of daily life. And though the people suffered, they held fast to something eternal, their connection to the land and to each other. I remember staying in a wooden guest house, hand-built with a porch overlooking a plum orchard. At night I'd lie awake listening to the creak of the old beams, the distant hoot of an owl, the hush of the forest breathing. The air was so clean it felt like silk in my lungs. And in the morning, oh, the mornings, I was woken gently by the low clang of a cowbell, the scent of wildflowers through an open window. Breakfast was fresh cheese, homemade bread, and forest honey, warm and amber, like captured sunlight. But more than food or forests, it was the people who stayed with me. A warmth that felt ancient, generosity with no pretense. Old men who told stories in whispers, women who embroidered their memories into linen. One elder, Nikolai, told me how his grandfather survived the plague by living deep in the forest, drinking pine tea and praying at dawn. He pointed to the hills where that cabin still stood, now overgrown, yet still known, still remembered. These were people who carried history not as burden, but as root. As we continue this journey, feel the serenity of this place settle upon you. The forests sway gently in the wind. The hills cradle quiet villages like lullabies wrapped in green. And all around, those painted monasteries, bold yet tender, remind us that even after the darkest of nights, we are capable of creating light. And so, dear listener, breathe deeply now. Feel the age of the mountains beneath you, holding you. Let the murmurs of this place, its songs, its silence, its soul, wrap around you like a blanket. For Bukovina is more than a destination. It is a memory, a whisper, a balm. Let it lull you into rest. Let it carry you home. Ah, Cluj-Napoca, a name that rolls off the tongue like an incantation echoing through time and stone. Nestled among the western hills of Transylvania, this vibrant city hums with life, a place where the past does not sleep but strolls beside you, arm in arm with the present. Ancient towers rise beside sleek glass buildings, street musicians play beneath Gothic spires, and students, poets, and painters drift through cobbled alleyways lit with golden lamps like fireflies trapped in a dream. By now, dear traveler, the screen has long since faded to black. You've left the waking world behind, and with it, the weight of the day. Follow my voice gently now as we slip quietly into this chapter of our journey. A chapter woven with echoes of empires, soft midnight jazz, and the hush of history resting under moonlight. Cluj-Napoca is the unofficial capital of Transylvania, but more than that, it is its soul, a city of stories. And I remember my first time arriving there just as dusk settled. The light was turning lavender over the rooftops, and the silhouette of St. Michael's Church cast a noble shadow across Union Square. Bells tolled the hour, deep and slow, and pigeons stirred into the fading light like forgotten memories returning home. The city has roots stretching back nearly 2 millennia. It was once a Roman settlement called Napoca, tucked securely into the heart of the empire. Later came the Hungarians, the Saxons, the Ottomans, and the Habsburgs, each one leaving a trace, a flavor, a whisper behind. Cluj is layered like a palimpsest, and if you walk softly enough, you can almost hear the footsteps of those who walked before. Yet it is no city stuck in the past. Oh no, it beats with modern rhythm. Students from all over the world flood into Cluj's universities, filling the cafes and bookstores with laughter and dreams. I wandered into one such cafe, tiny, wood-paneled, lined with shelves of poetry in every language. A young woman behind the counter handed me a lavender tea and smiled. "You look like someone who likes old things," she said. "Stay a while." And I did. Outside, couples strolled beneath the wrought-iron lamps of Boulevardul Eroilor. Jazz music floated from an open window. A violinist played near the statue of Matthias Corvinus, the great king born in this very city. His monument stands proud, yet softened by time and pigeons, guarding the square with patient grace. I recall sitting there on a bench watching the city slowly slip into night. The lights came on one by one, and the smell of warm pastries wafted through the square. Somewhere nearby, church bells rang again, not to call, but to calm. The rhythm of Cluj is gentle, like a heartbeat at rest. A city with soul and softness, despite all it has endured. For Cluj has not always known peace. In the Middle Ages, it was a fortified Saxon city, its walls lined with watchtowers and its gates shut tight against invaders. Later, during Ottoman sieges and Habsburg control, the city saw flames, illness, rebellion. Even in the 20th century, under communist rule, freedom was a distant dream. But always, the people of Cluj kept creating books, music, murals, and now their voices echo down the lanes, not in sorrow, but in song. One evening, I found myself on Sedasuya Hill, the old fortress rising above the city. The climb was steep, but at the summit, the view. The entire city sparkled below like stars had fallen and taken root in the streets. I remember a soft breeze brushing my face and the smell of linden trees. Locals sat on benches nearby, speaking in hushed tones, some sharing a bottle of wine. A violinist played softly again, that gentle violin, always returning in Cluj. The city is full of little sanctuaries like that. Central Park, for instance, with its graceful alleys and willows bending over the lake. I walked there at dawn once when fog still clung to the grass and only the swans stirred. An old man fed breadcrumbs to the birds while a mother pushed a pram beneath the chestnut trees. The city was just beginning to wake, and I was just beginning to dream. Museums abound here, of art, of ethnography, of pharmacy and folk, but my favorite was the quietest one of all, the Tailor's Bastion, a remnant of the old city walls now turned into a memory house. Cool stone corridors, beams blackened with age, and silence thick enough to hush the mind. I stood there imagining the lives that passed through, merchants, lovers, guards, children, and felt them brush by like shadows in candlelight. Cluj is also a city of contrasts. Ancient churches rest beside tech startups. Traditional Romanian bistros serve alongside vegan cafes. You might hear Romanian, Hungarian, German, and English spoken all in one tram ride. It is a place that embraces contradiction, and yet never feels disjointed. Everything here flows, as if carried by some unseen current of calm. Perhaps it's something in the hills, or the way the Sumshulmike River curls through the city like a lullaby, or simply the deep-rooted endurance of a people who have known hardship, but never let it define them. And so now, dear listener, let the quiet pulse of Cluj-Napoca cradle you. Let the cobblestones soften beneath your steps. Let the fading jazz and distant church bells drift into your dreams. For in this city, this heart of Transylvania, every stone remembers, every breeze carries a story, and every night is rich with the soft hush of memory. Sink into that memory now. Let it hold you. Let it guide you gently toward rest. Now that our journey nears its close, let us linger a while longer in the hush between memory and dream, where the echo of hoofbeats, whispered prayers, and winds through Carpathian pines settle into soft stillness. We have wandered far, from Transylvanian citadels, cloaked in mystery, to the mural-clad monasteries of Bukovina that have weathered plagues, empires, and time. We crossed the folk heartlands of Maramuresh, where the wooden churches stand like elder sentinels, and glided gently through the silent waterways of the Danube Delta, where the world itself seemed to hold its breath. Now, as the sky above Romania grows dim in your mind's eye, I ask you to rest here with me, one last time, beneath her starry canopy of stories and scars. Romania is a land with a long, complex shadow, a place shaped by conquest, calamity, and quiet endurance. It has suffered under the weight of imperial ambition, Ottoman expansion, Austro-Hungarian rule, and the iron grip of communism. Yet through each passing epoch, through every hardship, her people have carried forward the quiet defiance of old songs sung by candlelight, of hands that keep traditions alive when borders change and names vanish from maps. It is a country that does not forget. Her soil remembers the Roman footsteps that gave her name. Her forests recall the Dacian kings, the brutal siege of Sarmizegetusa. Her castles murmur of medieval lords and uneasy alliances, of betrayals and blood oaths made in torchlight. Even the wind feels different here. It seems older, wiser, steeped in the tales it carries from ridge to ridge. There is something in it that speaks not only of history, but of legacy, a survival, a soul. And yet, alongside the sorrow, Romania radiates beauty with the same intensity. Wild, unpolished beauty. Sunsets that linger too long over hayfields. The scent of burning pine wood in a shepherd's hut, a grandmother's voice humming a lullaby she once learned from her own mother deep in a mountain village where time forgot to keep pace. There is no contradiction in this duality. The darkness and the light are stitched together here with uncommon grace. One cannot fully know Romania without touching both. The bruises left by invaders and tyrants, and the resilience that bloomed anyway in painted eggs, in poems, in dances that beat their feet defiantly against the earth. And the people, oh, the people, fiercely proud, quietly humorous, and gifted with a kind of melancholic poetry in their speech. There's a gentleness beneath the ruggedness, a generosity passed down through centuries of having little yet always offering something, a plate, a story, a glass of plumbed suica that warms the throat and the heart alike. Even now, I recall the faces I met, wrinkled with time, eyes gleaming like the surface of alpine lakes, farmers and artists, monks and musicians, each one with a story stitched into the fabric of the land. I remember sitting in a Transylvanian tavern, rain tapping against the windows as an old man spoke of wolves in the forest and revolutions in the square. He shrugged as if to say, "This is Romania. We endure. It's not a place one simply visits. Romania stays with you, like a faded photograph tucked in the pages of a forgotten book, like a melody you can't quite name but find yourself humming. It draws you back, not with grandeur, but with gravity. There is a certain silence here, the kind that isn't empty, but sacred. You hear it in the quiet before dawn on a village hillside, in the hollow of a monastery bell, in the rustle of the reeds when the wind curls over the delta. And now, you might hear it in your own heart too if you listen. Yes, Romania holds secrets. Not just the Gothic tales, the medieval legends, the shadowy corners of history, but deeper ones, the unspoken kind. The kind only the stillness reveals, the kind one only understands after watching mist rise over the Carpathians or seeing candlelight flicker against a saint's painted face in a monastery where the walls themselves breathe devotion. This land invites reverence, not the loud kind, but the quiet awe of realizing you've touched something older than your own memories. As we now drift towards sleep, I ask you to carry this place with you, not just the names and cities, not just the myths, but the feeling of Romania, the scent of its rain, the depth of its silence, the echo of its sorrow and song. Let it nestle into your dreams like the rustle of oak leaves, like the soft crackle of a wood fire in a shepherd's hut. And when you wake, perhaps a part of you will still walk those cobbled streets and mountain passes, still hear the faint call of a nightingale in a village grove, still feel the soul of a place that endures, bruised but blooming. Romania is not merely a country. It is a quiet force, a survivor, a whisper that refuses to be forgotten. So let us end here, with eyes gently closed, thoughts unspooling like thread, wrapped warmly in the shadow and starlight of a land that has seen so much and still dreams. Good night, dear traveler. Sleep soundly, And may the memory of Romania hold you gently through the night.